Good afternoon to you. Yes, I'm Lindsay Kemp, Dr. Lindsay Kemp from the School of Business and Management here at the American University of Sharjah. I'm particularly interested in being here because it allows me access to colleagues both within the university who are not from School of Business and Management, who I spend most of my time with, and also, of course, people outside the university, because that's a bit of a theme of my presentation, is the internal and external. So the topic is this global world and learning technology in education in the Gulf, because I want to discuss the concept of a global university as a community really of educators, of researchers, and also of practitioners. We need to collaborate across the Gulf universities, bringing together both local and global knowledge across physical and virtual classrooms. We've got the learning technology now that allows us to collaborate across distances and to get that access to the expertise that's available within the people and also from the resources that are out there. So I'm going to consider contemporary pedagogy that fits with the current needs of us as educators and of our students and of the global future that is for all of us. Our students are, and you've heard these terms, I'm sure, they're of the net generation, they're the virtual generation. Now, that means that they've been brought up on a vision of a future that is about technology. I just want to play you a little bit, because I think it adds into some of the things we've been talking about, particularly about students' use of these and our own use of them, of the computers, of internet, of the smartphones that we have. So just a 1 minute of a vision of students today. And I do suggest that you may want to look at this when you're outside this room. We suppose that our students are all multitaskers. Now that was by Michael Weish from Kansas State University. It was part of a project that students did to analyse their own vision of the future. So they were actually, and that's come up today already, producing learning. They were producing knowledge together. And then they made it into a project, and then they put it online. And by the last time I looked, that particular video had 4 million hits, which is a lot of sharing of information. We've got access to the software. We don't have to teach the students the technology. My premise is it's not about technology anyway, it's about working in teams, it's about connecting with the world outside the university and inviting other people in. I want to demonstrate now some production of knowledge that students in one of my own courses did, in the Management 394 course, Women in Leadership. It's a short video, this is the introduction. They did do a longer one. They applied a global management topic to a local situation, and they invited the AUS community and external speakers in to debate women and networking. That's a global topic. They took it from their local point of view and turned it into a debate. This was an introductory video they made, looking at the local situation within a global context and producing knowledge whilst they're at it. Now, to repeat, I didn't teach the students how to make videos. I didn't give them that input. I didn't need to. I'm an expert in leadership, not in technology. The students knew all that. So what we're talking about here, I think we as educators can hold each other and the students back with the textbook and with the PowerPoint. It perpetuates the myth in my own area in management that things are a steady state, and they're not. We're looking at a modern situation where there is one best way and trying to get to a postmodern where there's many ways of teaching. Now, there was a bit of a debate this morning, wasn't there, about whether online or distance learning was better than other forms of teaching. My premise is always there is the place and time for 1, blended learning, and 2, face-to-face learning, and 3, online learning. What I'm talking about, that's a vision of a knowledge community where we can debate those issues and also bring together the knowledge that we can reuse in our courses. So what I've got here is, as I've mentioned before, the internal and external. The internal more local, what we're doing in the classroom, the external going outside, and how the students are also localizing and globalizing their learning. We're talking about a community where we'll be sharing resources. We're talking about blended learning, open source materials, creating reusable learning objects and sharing them, and having a virtual classroom that may lead to cyberspace conversations. I am, within the time limits available, going to give you some examples of some technology that I've been using in order to demonstrate what I mean and what are the possibilities, and also the students' knowledge that they gain through using this technology. So blended learning, first off. Blended learning, what are we actually talking about? Well, basically, the most simplistic definition of blended learning is a mixture of face-to-face and non-face-to-face. It's electronic learning plus face-to-face. It's appropriate for these digital natives. They're brought up on the use of computers. They're confident with it. Recently, I presented on a technology workshop in the School of Business and Management and entitled it, "Do Students Dream of Electronic Teachers?" Well, I doubt students do dream of electronic teachers, and neither do we dream of having electronic students. But I'm sure we all imagine some flexibility, don't we, in effective teaching and learning, and flexibility that we feel comfortable with, that our students can use. So it's of interest to explore how technology can support us, and I'll come back to themes as I go through these examples of interactivity, the reusable content, collaboration between us and connection with other people, in consideration of what I think we should have, which is a Gulf-wide knowledge community. Leadership and empowerment is one of the subjects that I teach, and I can go online and to places like MIT, and because of the internet, I can download videos, I can download podcasts that will help me in my teaching, and I can direct students to them, to these resources. Open source materials. Open source materials give us access to experts online. Experts, again, in leadership, because that's my subject, such as this woman who, do any of you recognize her? This is from TED, which is a community of experts, so we can use these materials for our teaching. Sheryl Sandberg, anybody? Connection with technology? Go on.
We went to the conference together and there she...
So Sheryl Sandberg is the Chief Operating Officer of which company? Can you remember?
Sure, but I do know that she totally motivated women around.
That's right. That's right. She's the Chief Operating Officer of Facebook.
Oh, yes.
And so that's the link with the technology and the link with the resources in the fact that we can go and get these resources now and use them in our teaching. And our students can go and get them to use for their own projects, and they do. So we can get this expertise at a very high level. We can also create our own learning objects. So, for example, on YouTube and the universities such as the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, also places like the Open University in the UK, is where we can put our articles, can put our reusable learning objects, which I'll show you a bit more of this in a minute. We can put them onto YouTube. I think the problem is if we put it out there, then A, we get a lot of advertising on there, and also it needs to be operated from within a group of peers like ourselves, where we're getting this knowledge and adding it in to a community such as ours and creating it as we're going along. This particular module that I produced is a reusable learning object that I recorded and then did actually post on YouTube for future student use. Now, what we've got is within this, we've got voiceover, we've got the use of assessment within, because we've got the technology to do it. We've also got the idea that if we post it online, then the students can watch it and we can follow up in the classroom. This is where the blended learning side comes in, to get them to answer questions, to do further assignments, to talk more deeply, rather than them having to sit and just be acceptors of us giving them information. They can actually be motivated to go out and find some information for themselves, and they're expecting to find it online, and they can do. What we also need to ensure is that we have availability of integrating all the different pieces of software that you can have. So, for example, here we've got a video which then links to actually a BBC podcast that the students can then listen to and watch, and then come back to the classroom to discuss. Again, I didn't teach them the technology, they just went to the internet. The technology may seem magic to those who don't know it, we also have resources within the university, this one and other universities, I'm sure, that will help us learning support, and I've got a lot of support here, to develop these reusable learning objects. We are to look at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, the open courseware, where they are putting their own materials online for other people around the world to use. Collaboration. Interestingly enough, I went to have a look at universities over here that may be part of the open source program. And what I did find was that King Fahd University of Petroleum and Minerals over in the KSA does share materials. The materials are as yet in their infancy, and it doesn't involve other disciplines, for example, my own in management education, but I was pleased to see that a university over here is doing that. As part of the open course, the open source project, there's also resources available in many different languages, but not in Arabic, which is another opportunity, I think, for us in this part of the world to share the information, the data, the teaching materials that we have in Arabic for use in other parts of the world. In the UAE, there's a consortium, an open courseware consortium. A member of this is called Anabut, and they have actually a dedicated research and education network. But at this moment, it's only infrastructure. There's nothing on it. I think it's up to us if we wanted to use an infrastructure like that, where we could put locally relevant sources to share them. It's the structure that we mentioned earlier on that will be useful. I want to take you now to the Open University in the UK and the Open Learn system that they have, where again they share their resources, and it's called the Home of Free Learning. I did some investigation. I discovered 304 resources for the Middle East, of which one of them is this Introducing Religions. So the students could look at this and add it to some project. We can also use it because it's all peer-reviewed material, and I think that's important for us to have control of a community of teaching resources, that it's peer-reviewed, that we know it's high quality. So they watch this, we can watch this, the architecture of a mosque, which also is available throughout the world. The point I'm trying to get at is that I think from a perspective of, for example, MIT in the States, the Open Universities in the UK, yes, they're global because they're on the internet. However, you've still got a perspective from over there given to us over here, and I do think it's time for us to make this direction for the future of it's here and we can put it out there. Virtual classrooms. I have experimented with virtual classrooms with a couple of my courses. I can show you a recording of it afterwards. It was an interesting experiment. Considering the students here are face-to-face students, that is not something that needs to be overturned. What we're talking about, and I repeat, is blended learning. So they're face-to-face most of the time. There were a couple of modules that I decided, let's try the virtual classroom. It's called Blackboard Collaborate, the one that we used. And I've just taken a screenshot here. As I say, I can show you some more of this later. A screenshot there of the students. I'm in the space here. I'm talking through their schedule. They're participating virtually. And also, interestingly enough, I don't know whether you can actually read it here. I was talking to the students at this point, and I said, oh, particular named student, can you speak? And he didn't. To it, I got a message saying from another student, oh, I think he's away at the moment. We went through the whole class, what would have been a face-to-face situation. They were at a distance. It was the first time that they'd come across some such technology. Yes, it was novel, of course it was. I didn't have to teach them anything about the technology. They got in there, they practiced a bit, and we went forward. And we did all the sorts of things that we would have done in the face-to-face classroom. The collaboration, the bringing in videos, bringing in expertise. And I think these virtual classrooms are also useful if we think about, we all like to have external expertise in our classroom, speakers. We can bring those speakers in, and we don't need to fly them in at vast expense. They could be in their own country, in their own time, talking to our students. Another use, I think, of these virtual classrooms is to bring students in from other areas, from overseas, and they can talk with us about what their experience is, and we can learn from them, they can learn from us. So I do think that all these different tools of technology that we have go towards the idea of a global university. So, for example, if we use something from MIT, for example, or if we use something like I showed there from the BBC, we're adding to that knowledge, we're integrating it into our course. We're then saying, well, this happens locally in the UAE, for example. Now let's push it back, having added that knowledge on, as another learning object, like that Chapter 8 motivation one, where we've added to the original knowledge, the BBC One podcast about a study on motivation, but what happens here is like this, and then we push it out. So we've added to the knowledge, not just taking from other people. We've got to add value, and I think that addresses your concerns about that, Nidal. But also on the let's get students in from other places in the world, yes, absolutely, because we can draw them into these virtual classrooms, and vice versa. Students from here can go physically. We want them to go physically. We want those physical other students in, and also have them able to come in virtually, because they'll add so much richness to our courses. That goes on one stage further, doesn't it? Because yes, we're all doing this. We're all creating articles, making learning objects, and they're all out there. Where have we got control over that community of what we're producing, that we can say, oh, go here for this, go here for that? It may be all out there, but it's not in a community that we can gather that information and have control over it, is a point that I'd like to raise. Because I have stuff, materials online. I have it also in my office, and all you will have as well. When we've added that information, we've added that knowledge, we need to gather it into a community where we can share it and have control of that sharing, I think. So that we've got a community of knowledge makers.